Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. Before we get started, please share the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast with a friend. We always appreciate you guys spreading the show. And make sure that you're subscribed and give us a good rating and review. We love our 5-star ratings. Always appreciate those. Today, we have the resident coffee expert back on the show. Dr. Coffee, a.k.a. Dr. Stephen Hellshine, is on the show. How you doing, my friend?
Another day above ground, living the dream, my friend.
Yes, I love it. I love it, especially because today is another inaugural episode. We have fun on the show. We switch it up. We do the coffee quizzes. We do all sorts of different interviews. But today, we are dealing specifically with coffee news. That's right. We've pulled out a couple of coffee headlines, and me and Dr. Coffee are going to break them down for you and make sure you're up to date on the world of coffee and health and everything that relates. So, Dr. Coffee, you ready to get started to jump into these 3 hot topics, if you will?
I always like my coffee with hot topics.
You like your hot coffee with hot topics?
I do. And we have some good ones, too, today, because there are 3 different editorials we're going to talk about, 3 very interesting concepts to talk about, and I hope your listeners are ready to hang on and get pulled by the seat of their pants here. Seriously,
this first one, man, it might set me off, to be honest. This first article that I've pulled up here, this particular one I'm looking is at foxbusiness.com, and it's titled Seasonal Coffee Drinks Loaded with Sugar Survey Finds. And it's about a London-based group called Action on Sugar that found that festive hot drinks from popular chains like Starbucks are loaded with sugar and calories. And they specifically point out this Starbucks venti gingerbread oat milk drink, and it has a whopping 93.7 grams of sugar in it. Oh man, Dr. Coffee, what do you have to say about these specialty seasonal drinks that they release?
Well, it's not just a seasonal drink. So I want to kind of go back to reality with our listeners today. So coffee is a medicinal herb, and we take it to not only enjoy the heck out of it, but also to help with health. And you and I have gone through a number of podcasts talking about the healthy benefits of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know that on the journey of staying healthy, sugar is not part of that journey.
Right.
According to Harvard, the Chan School of Public Health, and the American Heart Association, we know that people eat or consume 22 teaspoons of sugar a day. And we also know if we look at the map of diabetes over the last 20 years, it keeps becoming more rampant in our society.
Right.
And a teaspoon, which has a little over 4 grams of sugar in it, is just way too much sugar. So here we go to the holidays, and the holidays have people adding sugar to everything. So we go to these parties, and we have Christmas cookies, and we have Christmas cakes.
Even the ham has honey on it.
Even the ham has honey. And my own favorite personal, which is fruit cakes.
Nice.
And I was looking at a fruitcake that I had in the closet from last century, thinking about, do I really want to eat this? It will still be on the planet next year. And then I started taking a look at the amount of sugar that's in coffee. Now, Starbucks puts out their venti oat milk, signature caramel hot chocolate with whipped cream, and that has 93.7 grams of sugar.
My God.
Really, right? But before you beat yourself up over Christmas and the holidays and sugar on the potato latkes if you're celebrating Hanukkah, before you beat yourself up on that, let's get some reality. So, a latte. A latte is typically 1 or 2 espresso shots topped with steamed milk. Small latte is about 200 calories.
Mm-hmm.
A large will take you up to 341. Fat content is 10.6 grams, and it contains no sugar unless you add it.
Right.
And I have seen people put whipped cream on it. I've seen people add 3, 4 sugars. I've seen them add, the caramel syrup and mocha syrup. Same kind of goes for a cappuccino, an Americano. We can take what could be a healthy drink and we could destroy it.
Yeah, step all over it. Exactly.
Yeah, so I always ask people, do you want a little hot chocolate with your sugar?
Would you like some coffee with that cup of sugar?
Exactly. Now, those are just the simple drinks. Who doesn't love a vanilla frappuccino? It's a blended drink. It's got ice, milk, flavored syrup, topped with cream. Small one's about 350 calories, 12 grams of fat. Large is 530 calories, about 18 grams of fat. And then when you add 130 calories just by adding whipped cream to it.
Right.
So we've got to be careful. We've got to really understand what we're doing when we add these things. So here are my 5 tips to cut calories in coffee drink.
Oh, please.
The first one, which is really controversial, and it depends where you're coming from. If you're a paleo guy, you're going to hate guy or gal, you're going to hate what I say. If you're not a paleo guy, you're going to be okay with it. But go skinny. Use skimmed or non-fat milk.
Okay. Like you said, reduction in calories?
We're just talking about calories. Now, if you're a paleo person and you know that the problem really isn't fat, it's really sugar, and you're willing to use whole milk and you're willing to stay away from sugar, that's a different animal. We can talk about paleo on one of the other podcasts.
Sure. No, I'm following you.
Okay. Always pass on creamers and whipped creams.
Oh,
they can add 7 grams of fat and up to 120 calories.
Yeah, especially these weird, I don't know what they're considering creamer now. You turn around the back, the first 2 ingredients is water and then safflower oil or something. What are you putting in your coffee?
I know, right? You go to these stores and you look at this non-fat half and half, and you look at the first 4 ingredients and you can't even pronounce them.
Yeah. I'm hearing some pretty bad stuff about that. So just avoid those altogether. I like that.
Okay, so number 3 is forego sugar. Mm-hmm. You may love sugar, but if you're drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee every day, those sugars are adding up, and that goes for flavor syrups too, which counts for 70 calories in just 1 shot. If you must have a flavor, I guess choose a sugar-free syrup or opt for a sweetener instead.
Right.
So again, there's controversy. As a doctor, I'm not real big on people using artificial stuff, and I can cite studies that show it increases your appetite for sweets. But, we're just talking, staying focused, taking my ADHD medicine and just staying focused on cutting calories.
Absolutely.
Number 4 or 3, 4, forget chocolate and caramel toppings.
Right.
Number 5, low-fat milk coffees are a good option simply because it can provide you with 200 milligrams of calcium.
Nice.
And your 6th, which is your best option always, is plain black purity coffee.
Yeah, baby.
When you're drinking purity coffee, the taste is so exquisite, you don't need all the other stuff. It's not bitter. It's not acidic. It's real coffee taste.
Yeah, enjoy the coffee for the coffee. I love that. I love throwing that in at the end there. And then wouldn't you say, Dr. Steve, if you're like us and you're drinking 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day, maybe you can't tick all of these boxes for every cup, but maybe have one be kind of your treat cup and don't add sugar to every single time you drink coffee. You know what I'm saying? Do you look at it as different kind of sessions, and then maybe that way some people can still get their little fix of deliciousness?
Well, if you're going to eat a food, you're not going to eat the same food all during the day. So why do you have to have the same coffee all day long?
Right.
I get up in the morning. My first thing is a shot of espresso. Then I make my pour over using my Chemex,
That's awesome.
and put together my 3 cups of ground purity there, and I can have one of them with some sweetener. I like a little agave syrup and a little canned milk.
Nice.
And then I'll have 2 more cups during the day of black. And I'll even make, things like gelatin, not Jello brand, but gelatin with coffee.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I use Zint, which is a flavor of which is a brand of gelatin.
Uh-huh.
It's this organic, whatever gelatin you get at the health food store called Zint. And I'll make it with coffee.
Whoa. And that turns into like kind of a coffee pudding?
Well, it's more like a coffee gummy.
Whoa.
Because I make it thin. I put it in a long dish and I make it thin, and I can cut it into strips, and it's almost like a coffee gummy.
Whoa. I'm into that. That sounds incredible.
Oh, it's awesome. It's my go-to for sweet. And if you put a little bit of, you can even put some raisins in it, and that'll give you your sweet. And if you really need a snack, you grab one of your coffee raisin strips.
Wow, man. That sounds incredible. I need a little PDF of that recipe. I'm all for that. You were getting me off track, though. I was about to go off on sugar, and I want to kind of present this thought to you, Dr. Steve, and get your reaction. I don't want to seem too crazy or like conspiratorial, but I got to convey this thought. And that thought is, you take a look at the diabetes epidemic, the diabesity epidemic, as you always like to say, and you take a look at the sugar consumption that Americans have versus what's recommended. It blows my mind that this isn't a cultural priority or a like government priority or a legislative priority. If you take a look in the United States specifically at how we treat, drinking ages, tobacco laws, tobacco tax, the war on drugs, you look at all of these things and we have so many thoughts on them. But then you take a look at sugar, which is horrible for us on so many levels. It's a carcinogen, first of all, and then it has all these, horrible obesity and damages the brain, all this stuff. It's kind of like they just turn a blind eye to this one. It's almost like government sanctioned drug use. Everyone's getting hopped up on sugar, and nothing else is okay. But you can drive through Starbucks and get these 93-gram sugar cups and pass them to your 3-year-old in the back seat and your elderly grandmother riding shotgun, and there's not even any thoughts about it, let alone laws. And again, I'm not saying like there should be laws or one way or the other. I'm just saying, doesn't it strike you as odd that we have so many thoughts about these things that are bad for you, these controlled substances, but sugar is a substance that's completely uncontrolled and kind of poisoning the entire nation? Am I making any sense there, or am I just wackadoo?
No, you're making real sense. And look, I don't want to get into politics, so I'm going to bring up a name, and I don't want all your listeners to freak out that I'm bringing up a name. It's not reflective of politics.
Sure.
But Michael Bloomberg, when he was mayor of New York.
Oh, right. The sugar tax. Are you going to? Yeah, the sugar tax.
Yeah. So he said, he wanted to limit large cups.
Uh-huh.
Now, again, if you believe in small government, you don't think government, you're a libertarian. I don't care about any of that. I want to talk about the concept.
Sure.
The concept is somebody took a stand because we're not educating people properly on the bad part of sugar in our diet. We're really just failing when it comes to educating people about diabetes.
Right.
And Bloomberg took a stand. Whether right or wrong, the concept of the stand was right. So I don't care if we're not talking about whether government should limit businesses. What we're talking about is nobody in their right mind should be sitting down to an extra large Coca-Cola.
And listen, the government is concerned with things that are bad for you. That's why they have, like I said, drinking age laws. That's why they have DUI laws, because of the danger. There seems to be no guidelines to danger surrounding sugar. You can go buy a sack of it and mainline it. You can pour it over your Fruit Loops, with a big cup scooper, and there's no thoughts about it. It's kind of crazy.
And part of the reason is that we think it's just a food item, but what we don't understand is that the chemical receptors in the brain that, react to things like cocaine share some of the receptors as sugar.
Wow.
We get that same kind of high.
That doesn't surprise me.
In the brain recognizes it as a real mood enhancer. And it's not good for us.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, though. I'm glad you brought that up specifically, because it's like, this is really a lot of people's drugs. Like if you know someone who has a hard time kicking sugar, or if you've struggled with, kicking sugar or sugar addiction, like, it's a real thing, man. And I think that we're finally starting to recognize that slowly in society. I just hope that, I hope that the education spreads quickly.
Well, one of these days where we can have a podcast just on diabetes and diabesity, and
for sure.
And you want to do that, I can really paint the picture of what insulin in the body does, and how glucose increases insulin, and how our insulin levels never go down during the day because we're constantly throwing glucose at it, and
wow,
what effects that has. I mean, you'll find that it's a very interesting podcast.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. Let's definitely do that. We just did 20 minutes on the first article, but that was the big one. Let's move on here onto the second article, if you'd like. Do you have any final words?
I got to give you the final word on this.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're coming up on the holidays, and I wish everybody a happy holiday. And what people need to remember when it comes to health is that it's not what happens between Christmas and New Year's. It's what happens between New Year's and Christmas.
Yes, absolutely.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Love it. Happy holidays from the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. I love it, man. This next article that we're moving on to here really was eye-opening for me personally, because I had never heard of this, and I'm worried that some Kona coffee fans are going to be heartbroken after we read this article from the Honolulu Civil Beat titled, "Hawaii's Coffee Blend Law Deceives Consumers." So, Dr. Steve, it appears that much of the Hawaiian-grown coffee with, Hawaiian origin names like Kona or Maui or those types of things, apparently there are laws permitting those brands to package coffee and brand coffee as Hawaiian coffee, even though it contains up to 90% foreign-grown coffee, other coffees. Have you heard about this before this article? What do you know?
So I know a lot. I've gone out to Hawaii to meet with some coffee growers. There are some wonderful coffee growers in Hawaii, and let's just get a clear view of coffee. We know that there are two basic types of coffee, Arabica and Robusta. We know that there are places around the planet in which coffee can be grown. The only real coffee that's grown in the United States is grown in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And that Hawaii coffee is labeled as either a Kona or a Maui or Kauai type of coffee. And what has happened is that the law in Hawaii allows you to put a word on the packaging that says blend.
Okay.
So if you pick up a bag and the bag says Hawaiian Kona coffee, and then somewhere on that bag it says blend, then you can have up to 90% of the coffee as being foreign grown or as being low quality
Right.
coffee.
Right. That's brutal.
Well, it's really misleading. First of all, I don't understand why Hawaii has embarrassed its own state to allow this blend labeling law. It's an embarrassment. It's horrible. And what it does is it cheapens the brand.
Exactly. Exactly. And Dr. Steve, don't you think this is a horrible time to do something like this in the age of technology, in the age of Twitter, and when you can Google and find out when this law there was a law proposed, for instance, that was going to fix this blend issue, and it was struck down. And all someone has to do is tweet this to a health conscious community. It goes around, and like you said, you just dealt irreparable damage to the image of your one of your highest value commodities that you export, and just the state in general. I don't know why they think they could get away with this and think this was a good idea in today's connected society. You know what I mean?
Look, when it comes to branding, we have certain brands that follow through. So when we talk about Idaho potatoes or Vermont maple syrup or yoga from India, they all have a connotation, or Blue Mountain coffee from Jamaica. They all have a connotation that's associated with a place.
Mm-hmm.
Kona should be Hawaii, or Maui should be Hawaii. It shouldn't be 90% foreign grown coffee. And
Yes.
I think this Made in America concept is a great concept, and we should be proud of Made in America, but you can't say it when you're talking about Hawaiian coffee.
100%.
And that's just wrong.
That's absolutely brutal, because that's not what you're looking for when you're dealing with Hawaiian grown coffee. You are looking for the best. Why rob the Hawaiian farmers of this beautiful coffee by stepping on it with 90% junk, you know?
Well, let's look at the dollars and cents to it too. You could take a real quality 100% Kona organic coffee, and it's pricey.
Right.
But when you start selling a $5 per pound coffee for $25 a pound by merely putting the name Kona on it, then everybody loses except for the people making the money.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, but we can help this with education. I'm sure you can't get away with, are there brands out there saying 100% Kona coffee, premium, good stuff? You know what I mean? You can't get away with lying about that, right?
There are a number of excellent Kona coffees. There's about 5 different brands that I buy on a regular basis. And if we wanted to put on the site some of those names, I would be glad to give them to you.
Absolutely. And since we're here in the world of Kona, to a less experienced coffee drinker like myself, what is that flavor like? Like, how does Kona coffee differentiate, would you say? Why do you like it?
It's real interesting. We've got 2 coffees that a lot of people talk about, Jamaican Blue Mountain and Kona coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been a Jamaica Blue Mountain fan. It just has not been my cup of tea.
Interesting.
But Kona coffee is exquisite to me. It's got just the right amount of balance of acid and taste. It's got a sweet bite to it, whereas others will have a bitter bite. Kona has a sweet bite to it. I find it's a wonderful mouthfeel of a coffee.
Nice.
And it's got, because of where it's grown, it's got the taste of mango and pineapple and the fruit feel of tropical. So I think Kona is just a delightful coffee.
I love it. I love it. So don't step on it. And everybody keep your eye out for those blends. Beware of the blends. Any final words on this topic, Dr. Steve?
No, other than the best way to taste Kona is if you're sitting in Maui with your feet up, sipping it as the sun sets over the ocean.
Yeah, buddy. As the feet go up, as does the cupping score rise. I love that. I love that, man. Final article here. This one is interesting. I had to include it. I love it personally. I love this innovation. From BBC News, the article's titled, Air New Zealand Trials Edible Coffee Cups to Combat Waste. So these are vanilla biscotti, leak-proof coffee cups that you can finish your coffee and then just chew up your cup and no more mess and waste with the coffee cup. What do you think of this, Dr. Steve?
So, I'm a philosopher thinker.
Yes.
And whether you want to buy into global warming and climate change and pollution and all that stuff is your business, not mine. I have my opinions. But I can tell you this. If everybody on this planet wasted 5 cups a day, throwing them into landfills, we'd be in big trouble. So therefore, we need to come up with another alternative. And the alternative that New Zealand has come up with is just phenomenal, because it's not taking the tact of, we'll make them out of paper or we'll make them out of bamboo. It's taking the tact, how can we get rid of plastic and wax, and how can we make something that's edible?
Yeah,
and
no mess after, nothing left.
That's right, because think about it, 8 million cups of coffee a year that they want to reduce from the landfill, and they've come out with a vanilla-flavored biscotti. There is a God. I can drink my coffee and eat my cup too.
Absolutely, man. And wouldn't you agree that I'm really interested in ideas that work big to small? One of my favorite podcasters always says that when he's, criticizing politicians. Work big to small. So if your, hobby or your whatever is a niche subject and you create waste, that's one thing. Coffee is, as you've always said, the second most consumed beverage on the planet behind water. If we can knock out the container with which we drink this beverage, that truly is a huge instant dent in waste, and truly working big to small. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've come up with a really novel solution. And, if they can get it so that it's, dairy-free and gluten-free and
right, that would be ideal.
And peanut-free, if they can put together a final product that just about everybody could consume. Shoot, you could even feed it to your dog if you don't want to eat it. But at least it's not producing more waste for our landfills.
100%. And this may come as a shock to a lot of people, but on the same website, BBC News, you'll see an article describing why 99.75% of all coffee cups are not recycled, often having to do with their inner lining. So it's not that this is just, hey, we're taking a recyclable material and knocking it down. No, coffee cups really are a big problem, and there's a lot of them out there. So I love this, especially for the one-time things like the flights. This is great.
Well, let's not forget the big picture also. So I think if we look at the coffee sphere, I'm going to start with the single-serve Nespresso, which are small little shots. And they're either made in aluminum or plastic. Nespresso doesn't make plastic, but the copycats that want to produce coffee for Nespresso machines, they make it in plastic. And then you've got the Keurig, and 99% of all Keurig are not recycled.
Right.
They're plastic. I know the Purity has a recyclable, but not to throw hot water on it. The problem is that you've got to get the coffee out of it if you really want to recycle it, or else.
Yeah. Hopefully you're composting. It's a perfect mix if you can just toss out the coffee beans into the compost, give it a rinse, and then you're right. That is an extra step, though.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've talked to people, and they're just not doing it the way they should be. And then you've got regular coffee, however it's made, being put into plastic or paper cups with plastic linings, and they're all winding up in the landfill. And we're going to run out of landfill. Yeah. So, I love this approach from New Zealand. I love the fact that they have coffee cups that you can eat.
I hope that it comes here soon. I like the innovation. And again, let's stay connected and share these articles and tell people about this, because that's how we get change done. I love it, man. I look forward to seeing this in the States. Dr. Coffee, this was great, my friend. We should do this once a month. As soon as we collect a couple of articles, we can hop on the line and just stay up to date on all the news surrounding coffee.
There's always news on coffee.
It's true.
And speaking of that, I'm going to go make myself a nice espresso.
You enjoy that, my friend. Everyone who's listening, thank you so much for tuning in today. Remember to share the show. Like I said, share it with a peer or a health professional, whoever you think would enjoy listening to this wonderful program. We really, really appreciate it. That's all we ask. This is Dr. Stephen Hellshine, a.k.a. Dr. Coffee, and Jordan River, signing off, wishing you an extraordinary day. We'll see you next time, everybody, on the Coffee, Health, and Science Podcast. Bye-bye.